Hello there, my name is Dominic and today I have the Ryobi HMP-180 multi-purpose tool. This is a DIY tool that I bought for around 4,800 Kenya shillings. This is around 480 US dollars. Now this tool has a few accessories inside: the rigid scraper blade, the plunge so cut blade, the sandpaper and sanding base plate, as well as the side handle. So I will do a quick unboxing and explain the details as we go along. That's how you do an unboxing. Now this is the tool itself. You can see the handle over there, looks like a angle grinder handle, and this is the HMP-180 multi-purpose tool. Almost looks similar to an angle grinder, except that this is where you insert your blades. Over here I can see that we have the British standard plug. We have the owner's manual over here. And the accessories. Now this is everything that was inside that packaging. Over here we have the Ryobi Handyline HMP-180 multi-purpose tool, and this is the on-off switch. I think that's on and that is off, and this tool comes with the British standard plug over here. Over here we have the plastic handle, and you can either install it on this side or on the other side. Now you might think this is metal, but this is actually plastic. It's just the color. All this is made of plastic, and the handle has a rubber grip at the top over here, as well as this place over here. Fits well in the hand. Now this is the 32mm plunge saw cut blade, and this is for cutting wood and soft metals like aluminium and brass. So do not use this tool to cut hardened steel or stainless steel. Over here we have the nut and washer. This is for clamping the different tools to the flange over here. Now this is the rigid scraper blade. This is for scraping. Imagine if you want to scrape something, but now imagine if you have power behind this scraper that goes like that very fast. This is the heads for tightening the tools. The sandpaper base plate is made of a foam material, and this is some velcro over here. So you stick this sandpaper, which also have the other velcro over here, to this base plate over here. Now this tool came with 3 sandpapers: the 60 grit, 120 grit, as well as 80 grit sandpaper. So let's power this thing and see how it works. The tool is plugged in, and this is the first time firing. Now you might notice that the flange over here is not actually doing anything as you view it, but when you actually place the tools on top of this thing, you will see it work. Now before you attach any blade or any accessory to any tool, make sure you actually unplug it. So I'm going to unplug it. The best way to remember this is to actually see the plug itself as you work on the tool tip. Now I can see that my washer over here is not flat, so I think I'm just going to clamp on this nut a little bit harder so that the tool cannot come flying out. Now when it comes to placing the blade or the base plates onto a multi-tool, make sure that you can actually see the tool's plug, because when you accidentally switch on the device when you're working on it, it might injure you or anyone around you. Another safety tip: always wear eye protection and ear protection, because these things can be loud. The flange has these raised portions over here, and these are the portions that enter into the base plate or the blade, like that. These holes also make sure that I can install the tool or the plate in many rotations. Like that is straight on. I can actually do 30 degrees, 60 degrees, and 90 degrees. The sanding plate also has its own washer inside there. Now let us try and do some cutting. Place the blade onto the flange, place the washer, and then place the nut. Another thing I have seen people do is that they usually install this tightening tool to the plug, so that when they need to tighten or untighten any tool tips, they actually unplug the device from the mains. I think that's enough. Now let me get a scrap piece of wood so that I can try out some cutting. Here we go. The other thing I can notice about this tool is that it doesn't have a dead man's switch. You know, that switch whereby you must press on it so that the tool can work. So if this thing was actually on when I went to plug it in, it would have actually come on. That is how a multi-tool actually functions. The blade usually moves very fast like this, and so it can cut very well. Now I'll try a plunge cut onto this piece of wood. This tool is loud, so here we go. That is the power of a multi-tool. I didn't want to go all the way through because I don't want to damage my tabletop over here. So you can do very good plunge cuts with this tool. Now let us install the scraping blade and see how it does. I don't have anything to scrape, but we'll just try it on this same piece of scrap wood. What I can notice about the scraping base plate is that the holes are actually a little bit larger than the flange inserts. Now just imagine maybe if you have some dry and flaking paint or maybe some concrete that you want to remove from any surface, you just insert the scraping base plate and then you go on scraping. Now that was the scraping base plate. Now let us insert the sanding base plate. Now once you insert the sanding base plate, you can insert whatever sandpaper you want. Let me use the 60 grit sandpaper. And that is how the multi-tool actually performs when sanding. Now, the third safety equipment you will require is a dust mask. You can see how much dust this tool can produce. Now, after a few minutes of running this tool, I can feel a very slight warmth over here. These are devices that use universal motors, and these motors usually produce a lot of heat. You can see the fan over there. That's for expelling the heat from inside the motor. I can cut and sand any surface inside this windowsill using the multi-tool. For example, I can cut this piece of wood from here and do a plunge cut all the way to the top over there. You can see the multi-tool is actually narrow enough to get into tight spaces. There is no way a jigsaw can fit into this space, and there is no way a sander can fit into this space, but the multi-tool can. If you just insert it inside there, you can see it fits perfectly inside there. Now that's it. I have my very useful multi-purpose tool with a power scraper and very confined spaces sander. Thank you for watching and goodbye.